your reaction to Tank fighting Mr. Roach, Lamont Roach?
I mean, I think the online reaction is a little bit unfair. Like, everybody hates the fight.
Your response to Tank combat, huh? Mr. Roach Lamont, in my opinion, the online response is a little unjust, as if everyone despises the fight. According to Lamont Roach, he is prepared to take down the Tank. Pros are anticipating just this result, Davis, but talk is cheap when you're up against a knockout artist. Tank doesn't simply win, he dominates, and Roach will have to weather a storm that few have survived to speak about.
I think he actually took this fight for the naysayers and all this and all the people talking shit about the fight. I think he actually took the fight because he know that I'm a dog, and he want to prove his skills against a dog. So I'm gonna show y'all what happens when two dogs get in the ring together, and I'm gonna be the one.
I believe he really took this fight because he knew I was a dog and wanted to show off his skills against a dog. I'm going to show you what happens when two dogs get in the ring together, and I'm going to be the one. That's what they say, and all of this and all of that people talking _ about the fight. Tim Bradley is outspoken about his opinion that Tank and Lamont Roach are a mismatch and that the fight should not be shown on pay-per-view because it is simply too little to appeal to a large audience. Bradley claims that Roach isn't strong enough since he doesn't have enough punching power to make the fight entertaining and barely survived last year's bout against former Tank opponent Hector Garcia. Bradley thinks that airing this bout on PPV will only harm Tank's reputation and leave the people who paid to see it feeling let down.
I'm not a fan of Tank. I'll be honest with you. I'm not a fan of him. I'm not a fan of what he does and how the way he operates outside the ring, you know. And I
will be very honest with you. I don't like Tank. I don't like what he does, and I don't like the way he acts outside of the ring. Bradley has been particularly vocal about the way some fans are hyping up this fight, saying that they think that Roach will be a tougher opponent for Tank than his previous one. Roach, who has a January 1st 25 record with just 10 knockouts, has been described as a pure boxer. He is not known for his power, and his victories don't have the same kind of impact that a real championship fight would bring. The fight was originally scheduled for December 14th, but it has since been rescheduled for an undetermined date in January. Frank Martin tells Bradley that this is ridiculous because he thinks that boxing fans who don't know anything about the sport will believe anything that has Tank's name attached to it.
You're talking about a sale? That's going to be huge. That's going to be huge numbers pay-per-view wise if both Lomachenko, the version that we just saw, and Tank, if he comes out clean, if they were to match up sometime in September or even December.
You are discussing an upcoming sale that will be extremely profitable. In terms of pay-per-view, if both Lenko and Tank match up sometime in September or even December and BC wins, Bradley notes that Tank Davis is currently a huge boxing attraction, which is fantastic for business, but also somewhat of a double-edged sword because he thinks that Tank fans are so eager to see him fight that they will pay to watch him take on anyone, even if they aren't the best opponents. Because pairing Tank with fighters who aren't genuine threats only damages his reputation and popularity. Bradley believes that Tank's promoters have been hurting him by allowing this to occur. Fans don't want to pay $75 for a pay-per-view just to watch Tank beat up someone who shouldn't be in the ring with him.
What are your thoughts on Gervonta Davis saying that he's going to walk away from boxing after 2025?
Look, I don't blame him. I'll tell you that much. I don't blame him, man. But this sport ain't no joke.
If the fight not there, you got to walk away, right?
This sport's no joke, man. He's made a lot of money in this sport.
What do you think about Gervonta Davis saying that he plans to retire from boxing after 2025? Look, I don't blame him. I'll tell you that much. This sport isn't a joke, man. He's made a lot of money in it. In fact, Bradley's frustration is evident. He wants to see Tank Davis take on a real contender, or a lion, as he puts it, someone with genuine talent who can test him in a way that the other fighters in his career haven't. He wants Tank to step up and take on the kinds of challenges that could make him a true legend in the sport, not just a celebrity due to his name and his ability to knock out opponents who are obviously outmatched. Bradley stresses that Tank's career to date has been about avoiding genuine risks. He also points out that, rather than placing Tank in the ring with someone like Vasyl Lomachenko, Tank's original promoters, Mayweather Promotions, did everything in their power to keep Tank safe from grave threats, in order to ensure that he could continue to improve without facing any serious challenges. The Tank's team paired him with older, smaller fighters like Leo Santa Cruz and Yuri Oris Gambo.
Tank and Lamont Roach. Is that the right opponent for Tank?
I don't know why everybody is kind of sleeping on Lamont, but he has a decorated amateur career too. He's a very steady kid. He's very skilled. Tank is Tank, you know. And when I say Tank is Tank, I mean like he's a bad man. He can fight. He's tough. I know we had our dispute back and forth, whatever. But at the end of the day.
And is Lamont Roach the appropriate opponent for Tank? I don't understand why everyone seems to be sleeping on the mother, but he has a successful amateur career as well. He's a very talented kid in his 30s, and when I fight him, I mean, he's a bad man. He can fight the tough. I know we had our arguments back and forth, but in the end, even though Tank is no longer with Mayweather Promotions, Bradley feels that his career plan hasn't really changed and that he continues to be paired with opponents that have a higher chance of losing than winning. When asked if the fight between Tank and Roach should actually take place on PPV, Bradley says bluntly, hell no. He also adds that although he is aware that the two have a history together, he believes that Tank is at a completely different level now, and that Roach is not even close to the caliber of fighter that Tank should be facing at this stage of his career. Bradley has little faith that Lamont Roach will be any different from the previous opponents Tank has faced. Bradley claims that despite being a professional for nearly 10 years, Roach hasn't faced anyone who can be regarded as elite.
And there's vulnerability there, I believe with Tank as well. If you can take his power and you can beat on to the body and pressure him and, if you got a punch too to where he respected, then, he's beatable. Every fighter.
Saying things like, there's vulnerability there, I think that with Tank as well. If you can take his power, beat on his body, and put pressure on him, and if you got a punch to the way he respected, then he's beatable. Every fighter has just started to build some momentum after years of fighting subpar opponents. And that's not enough to make this fight worth paying for. My career has been marked by a lack of real challenges. Among his previous 6 opponents is Fergo Macro. Tank had knocked out Hector Garcia, as was previously reported. Rodriguez, Angel Alvarado, Rene Taboa, Neil John, and Daniel Roses. Bradley argues that Roach hasn't done much to revitalize his career, as some may claim, and has instead been filling his resume with wins over unimpressive opponents who won't help him advance as a fighter. Bradley notes that even die-hard boxing fans might not recognize half of those names.
I want to see Tank get floored, and I want to see what he can do after that. That's what I want to see him get floored, guys. I'm telling you. And if he does, and he gets up and he passes with flying colors and he figures out a way, he is a dog. Without a question, he'll be considered a dog. Because I have questions about Tank.
I want to see Tank get floored, and I want to see what he can do after that. I'm telling you guys, if he does, and he gets up and passes with flying colors, and he finds a way to prove that he is a dog, then my questions about Tank will be answered. Bradley says that while some people think that Roach would cause Tank more issues than Frank Martin, this is a misperception of styles, and he doesn't see much promise in Roach's ability to confront Tank. Bradley claims that because Roach is an orthodox fighter, he will not have the same kind of devious angles that a southpaw like Frank Martin might use. Roach likes to spice things up, but that will only help Tank. Roach will be in trouble once he begins to land his shots because Tank thrives on pressure. Bradley thinks that ultimately, especially when Tank begins to break him down with his punches, Roach's heart will overcome him.
Dude looks like a total fraud. Put him in the ring with somebody that can punch back. This is the Tank Protection Program. This has been going along for a long time, people. Bringing fighters up from a lower weight class to get in there with Tank. Tank looks spectacular, but it's a cover-up.
Bradley isn't convinced, pointing out that he doesn't have the punching power to stop Tank, who has never knocked anyone out with authority, and that he's going to struggle against someone like Tank, who has the power to finish a fight at any moment. Bradley is adamant that he won't be able to handle the pressure that Tank will bring, especially when it's obvious that he has never faced someone with Tank's ability to take a punch and come back even harder. The Tank Protection Program has been going on for a long time, and while it looks amazing, it's a cover-up. Teofimo Lopez hasn't held back when it comes to Tank's next opponent, Lamont Roach. The WBO super lightweight champion was quick to criticize Davis for picking a lower weight class opponent, particularly when he had the opportunity to take on much more prestigious opponents in his own division. Although Lopez had previously used harsh language against Davis, this time it seemed to hit harder.
Because my son already faced Tank when he was only 15 years old, and Tank was about 30 pounds bigger than him, and when we sparred him. And my son, did really good with him.
The announcement that Davis would be confronting Roach on December 14th, 2024, caught many people off guard because my son had already faced Tank when he was just 15 years old. Tank was around 30 pounds heavier than him, and when we sparred, my son fared pretty well with him. The WBA super featherweight champion Roach is stepping up in weight to contend for the WBA lightweight title, but the catch is that he comes from a lesser division, so both fighters and spectators are wondering why Tank chose this match. WBA lightweight champion Davis has been in the news for a while, but his opponents lately haven't been the best. When it came time to choose his next fight, Davis chose Roach, whose record isn't particularly stellar in the lightweight division. It wasn't the high-profile clash that many boxing fans had hoped for, and that's exactly what Teofimo when the subject of Davis's next opponent came up. Lopez was pointing out that he had been watching all of this happen and wasn't really impressed with what he saw. He was talking to Mason B., also known as Mace, on the It Is What It Is podcast.
You think he's a guy that could give Tank some problems?
Stylistically, yeah.
Yeah.
Stylistically, I think he could take some problems. He's a great counter puncher. He's big and he's strong. You know, I would love to see that fight. Definitely love to see that fight.
Probably one of the most explosive matches you can make in boxing.
Think about it. Two power punchers with good skill sets, young and hungry. It'll be. Yeah.
Do you believe that he has the potential to cause Tank some trouble? Well, in terms of style, I believe he has some issues. He is a fantastic character puncher, big, strong, and you know that I would love to watch that fight. It's probably one of the most exciting fights you can watch in boxing. A pair of proficient power punchers, young and hungry, huh? It will be when Mace asked Lopez if he believed he could dominate Davis in the ring. Lopez, who never backs down from a challenge, said, "I think I dominate any of them." For Lopez, the issue wasn't just about Tank Davis, it was also about boxing in general, and what he perceives as a dearth of elite fights in the sport. Lopez made it apparent that he believed many fighters, including Davis, were avoiding the next level of their careers by not taking on the best opponents. Lopez noted that in order for a boxer to genuinely demonstrate their superiority, do they have to deal with the worst? Beating the competitors in front of you is one thing, but in order to establish your legacy, you must compete against the best. There is that next criterion or the next top tier. Lopez stated that you won't realize how amazing you truly are if you don't match that. Lopez is adamant that, despite having overcome some of the most difficult obstacles in his career, he has already completed those steps, but he views Tank as someone who has not yet done so.
I don't know. Am I ready?
Why do you want that fight with Tank, T.O.? I mean, it's obvious. It's a great fight. Why?
Yeah, well, I don't like people saying that I'm ducking somebody.
Why do you beat him?
Why?
Well, yeah.
Why do I beat him? Because I'm Teofimo to take over. That's why.
What really bothered Lopez, though, was the choice of Roach as the opponent. I'm not sure if I'm ready, but why do you want that fight with Tank Cujo? It's a clear great fight, so why? Well, I don't like people saying that I'm dunking somebody. Why do you beat him? As previously said, Roach is the WBA super featherweight champion. Although it is a significant achievement, he is still rising from a lesser weight class to challenge Tank to Lopez, so it seemed like a cheesy approach to boost Davis's profile without actually putting him to the test. Everyone paired him with a 130-pound man. According to Lopez, Davis was choosing a fighter who, despite the fact that a champion wasn't the kind of opponent who would elevate his status as a fighter.
Here's my take on the fight. Everything is true about this situation. One, Gervonta Tank Davis was being ducked leading up to this. Shakur.
Rather than taking on someone in his own division who could really test him. Lopez was referring to Roach's weight class when he said, whether he's a champion or not, you're getting a guy lighter than you to come up and wait to make you look good. Again, Davis was selecting a smaller person. Here is my perspective on the battle. Everything about this circumstance is accurate. Prior to this course, Davis was being ducked by one Gervonta Tank.
Oh, man.
That's the right picture.
Hill versus Tank. Great fight, Sean. Great fight. What are we fighting at? Tell me the numbers. Tell me what we fighting. 135, 140, because that makes a difference.
Listen.
You got to go to the king. That's the king behind me.
Stylistically, they're the same fighter. The makeup is a little different. The size is a little different. But their boxing style, the way